Welcome, the chosen ones. This is a divine broadcast from God Connection for the ones who have been pushed too far. Enough is enough. Even the angels in heaven have a breaking point, and yours has just been reached. They thought you were just going to keep turning the other cheek until your halo snapped in two. They foolishly mistook your divine patience for permanent permission to disrespect your spirit. But here is the profound truth they are about to learn the hard way. Heaven has its war generals, and you have just been activated. You are not here to host demons. You are here to evict them permanently. Let's drop a fact that your enemies do not want to face. The most effective weapon of spiritual warfare is not noise. It is precision. And guess what? You have just become lethal with it. The enemy banked on you never waking up to the full scope of your power. They desperately wanted a docile, exhausted, over-apologizing version of you who would forever confuse spiritual maturity with martyrdom. They celebrated your silence, believing it was a sign of your defeat. But what they failed to understand, in their profound arrogance, is that your silence was a countdown. And here we are. The clock has just hit 0. They did not just poke a bear. No, scratch that. They poked the anointed one of God who has now fully discovered that their divine birthright comes with dominion and authority, not just a lifetime of endurance. It is time to shut this entire circus down with receipts from the courts of heaven, with soul-piercing revelation, and with swift divine retribution. And do not worry if any of your enemies are secretly watching this video, and you know they love to tune into a chosen one's live stream. Just smile at the screen. They are about to get spiritually evicted from your life in real time. Let us begin. Number 1. They were feeding off your confusion like parasites. For the longest time, they were never just watching you. They were actively feeding off your confusion like energetic parasites. Every single moment that you second-guessed yourself, every time you hesitated to speak your truth, every time you asked yourself, "Am I overthinking this?" they fed. This was not just an emotional or spiritual drain. It was an energetic siphoning. Your uncertainty was their oxygen. They needed you to be doubting your perceptions, spinning in circles of anxiety, and questioning your own sanity. That was the only way they could keep you from realizing the truth of who you were and what kind of immense power you carried. Confusion is a weapon, and they wielded it against you like a master illusionist. They expertly blurred the lines between friend and foe, making you feel guilty for setting the most basic of boundaries. They called you selfish for prioritizing your peace, and they labeled you as too sensitive when you reacted to their toxicity. And you, being the kind and empathetic soul that you are, sat in the middle of that tension, trying to make things right, trying to fix what you did not even break. They watched you suffer, not because they were oblivious to your pain, but because your pain made them feel powerful and in control. Your suffering gave their empty lives a false sense of importance. As long as you were uncertain, they felt like they mattered. But here is the glorious twist. Clarity is starvation to the enemy. The moment your mind sharpens and your spirit settles into its unshakable truth, the game ends. The dense fog of their manipulation clears. You stop second-guessing your powerful intuition. You stop feeling the need to give lengthy explanations for your no. You stop begging for an understanding they are incapable of giving. And that is the exact moment the enemy starts to panic. Because now, the very confusion they fed off of has completely dried up. And you have replaced it with a laser-like focus, a divine direction, and a quiet, lethal execution. The shift happens the moment you stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and you start stating with cold certainty, "I see exactly what this is now." This is not arrogance. It is a profound and hard-won awareness. And awareness starves manipulators. Once you reclaim the sovereignty of your own mind, the parasitic feeding frenzy ends. They are left circling a dry well, thirsty, furious, and completely exposed. And that is how you shut them down. Not with a loud fight, not with a dramatic speech, but with a crystal clear knowing that is more powerful than any weapon they could ever form against you. That is the kind of spiritual strike that leaves no mess, just a deafening silence they can no longer feed on. Number 2, you were the open portal, and now you are sealing it shut. For years, you were an open portal, not just emotionally, but spiritually. You did not just let people into your life. You gave them unfettered access to spiritual realms within you that they had no business walking in. Your very presence was like a divine highway. People came around you and suddenly felt more inspired, more powerful, more creative, and more in tune with God. But it was never because of them. It was always because of you. You were the channel, the spiritual activator, the silent force that was lifting everyone around you without you even saying a word. You were the reason their own lives felt more magical and blessed. But the problem was, not everyone who came to you came with good intentions. Some of them entered your life with masks on, pretending to love you, pretending to care for you. But what they really wanted was parasitic access to your energy, your creative gifts, your divine grace, and your powerful anointing. They saw the portal within you standing wide open, and they walked through it like common trespassers in a sacred space. And you, being generous to a fault and largely unaware of your own immense power, you let them stay. You let them drink from your spiritual waters. You let them warm themselves by your inner fire. And you even let them set up camp in a holy place within your soul that they should have never been allowed to touch. That season of your life is now officially and permanently over. You are now sealing the gate, not out of any bitterness or resentment, but out of a hard-won wisdom. You have seen firsthand what happens when you stay too open, too available, and too unguarded. It leaves you feeling drained, disconnected, spiritually exhausted, and constantly wondering why you are carrying heavy burdens that are not even yours to bear. You are no longer available for spiritual freeloaders and energetic vampires. You have learned that healthy boundaries are not unloving walls. They are divine filters. You are not being cold. You are being precise. You are protecting the divine portal that exists inside of you, because you now understand that what flows through you is sacred, and it is certainly not meant for just anyone. The monumental shift is in your discernment now. You can feel the energetic difference between someone who is genuinely aligned with your spirit and someone who just wants a front row seat to your glow up. And you are no longer afraid to shut the door in their face. You do not owe access to anyone, especially not to those who took advantage of it the first time around. You are no longer open to everyone. You are not bitter. You are not paranoid. You are awake. And when a chosen one finally wakes up, the portal becomes a fortress, and the enemy is locked out for good. Number 3, your energy was the battlefield, but now it is the weapon. For so long, your personal energy has been the real battlefield. That is where the enemy fought you. Internally, silently, and consistently. They did not have to throw physical punches or scream in your face to harm you. All they had to do was systematically drain your spirit. That is why you felt so bone-tired for no apparent reason. It is why you felt so distracted and scattered when it mattered most, and why you felt a wave of anxiety wash over you in rooms that were supposed to feel safe. They knew that if they could shake and destabilize your energy, they could effectively shut down your progress. And for a while, their strategy worked. But here is where everything in your life has flipped. You have stopped leaking your energy, and you have started mastering it. You began to pay close attention to what drained you, what triggered you, and who left you feeling heavy and depleted after even a simple conversation. You started to strategically pull back, not out of fear, but out of a newfound spiritual strategy. You finally realized that your energy was not just something that people experienced. It was something that they depended on. Your very presence was their spiritual charger. And the moment you unplugged from them, they lost their power source. Now, that same energy field that they once tried to destabilize has turned into your greatest and most formidable weapon. You have stopped reacting to every little slight and provocation. You have stopped feeling the need to prove your worth to people who are committed to devaluing you. You have stopped fighting battles that were never even yours to begin with. Your energy has shifted from being scattered and chaotic to being sharp and focused. It has gone from being exposed and vulnerable to being armored and protected. And the ones who used to feed off your chaos can feel that the door has been permanently slammed shut. You are no longer available for their energetic games. You do not chase, you do not explain, and you do not argue. You do not show up just because someone calls your name. You are learning that your energy is a divine currency, and you are no longer wasting it on spiritually bankrupt souls. The power that they once tried to manipulate is now targeting them by default. Because when you stabilize your own energy, you expose every lie, every setup, and every evil plan they have made behind closed doors. Their schemes start to collapse because their power source, you, is gone. You are no longer their battlefield. You have become the spiritual weapon that they never saw coming. And your silence is no longer a sign of your confusion. It is the sound of your precision. Number 4. Forgiveness is no longer a strategy. It is a vaulted asset. You used to hand out forgiveness like candy at a parade, quickly, generously, and without any hesitation. Not because you were naive, but because you genuinely believed in the power of healing. You thought that if you could just let things go, things would magically change. You hoped that maybe they would realize what they did, that maybe they would stop doing it. But the harsh truth is, they took your continuous forgiveness as a clearance, as a green light to keep violating your spirit. They did not see your mercy as a sign of your strength. They saw it as a softness that they could endlessly exploit. You gave chance after chance to people who never even bothered to apologize. You stayed in toxic rooms you should have walked out of long ago. You tried to love people through their betrayals, their jealousy, and their constant disrespect. But it cost you dearly. It drained you. And while they walked away feeling smug and justified, you were the one left behind to clean up the emotional and spiritual wreckage they had left in their wake. That is when the powerful realization finally hit you. Forgiveness is not a weakness, but it is a sacred act, and it must be protected like any other precious thing. Now, forgiveness has changed its role in your life. It is no longer something you just toss out to keep a false peace. It is something you lock away in a vault until releasing it no longer costs you your own well-being. You have learned that forgiveness is not a spiritual obligation. It is a spiritual responsibility. And it does not mean that you deny what happened. It does not mean that you have to open the door to that person again. It simply means that you release the death grip they had on your energy without ever inviting them back into your space. That is where your power resides now. You are not cold. You are clear. You are not vengeful. You are vigilant. Forgiveness, when it is truly understood, is for you. But access is for the healed, the accountable, and the genuinely changed. And most people do not qualify for that access. You no longer forgive just to keep relationships afloat. You forgive to keep your own freedom intact. And if they dare to call that petty, let them. Because you have spent enough of your precious life bleeding for people who never even thought to bring you a bandage. From this day forward, forgiveness is not your default setting. It is at your divine discretion. And that shift alone is more than enough to shut the enemy down for good. Number 5. You are not just breaking cycles. You are burning blueprints. You are not just ending the patterns that hurt you. You are completely erasing the very spiritual and psychological structures that allowed those patterns to exist in the first place. That is why your healing journey feels so intense. That is why it feels like your particular healing is so much heavier than that of most people around you. You are not just breaking family cycles, toxic relationship dynamics, or generational bad habits. You are burning the very blueprints, the original maps, the mental codes, and the emotional wiring that made those cycles possible for generations. The people in your life, especially those in your family, fully expected you to keep playing your designated role. They thought that you would repeat the same behaviors, fall for the same old traps, apologize for the same things, and ultimately pass down the same dysfunction, just like everyone before you did. But you have become something different, something they cannot understand or control. You are the system error, the spiritual glitch in their matrix, the profound interruption in a long-running, tragic script that nobody ever questioned until you came along and ripped the pages out of the book. You are not healing for aesthetics. You are not doing shallow surface work so that people can say you have changed. You are going so deep with your healing that even your ancestors are being set free in the spiritual realm. You are facing the demons they could not face. You are saying no more to the abuses they were forced to normalize. And in doing that, you are not just healing yourself. You are ensuring that no one else in your bloodline ever has to fight that same battle again. This is why it feels like you are constantly under pressure, like your life has you in a refiner's furnace. Because when you are burning the blueprint, everything that was built from it begins to shake and crumble. Relationships fall apart. Old, false identities collapse. Comfortable but stagnant zones completely vanish. This is not destruction. It is demolition with a divine purpose. You are not just pulling up a few weeds. You are removing the toxic soil that allowed them to grow for so long. And yes, the people around you are deeply uncomfortable with your shift. They do not understand why you have changed so much, why you have gone silent, why you do not play along with their games anymore. But you are not here to make anyone comfortable in their dysfunction. You are here to make sure that the same spiritual trap does not catch the next generation. You are not just breaking the chain, you are melting down the mold. They will never be able to rebuild the prison that once held you. That is what real, lasting liberation looks like. And that is why the enemy is utterly terrified of you. Number 6. You have exposed their spiritual fraud, and now they are scrambling. They built their entire spiritual identity on borrowed light. They wore the crystals, they quoted the scriptures, they spoke eloquently of energy and love. But behind the polished performance was a desperate need for control, a fragile ego, and a deep-seated pattern of manipulation. They used spirituality like a costume, not as a genuine calling. And for a while, their act worked. People believed them, followed them, and praised them. Even you, at one point, may have questioned your own discernment, thinking, maybe they really are who they say they are. But something in your spirit never sat right. Something always felt off. That something was your spirit, your inner God connection, trying to alert you. Because the moment you walked into their space, the illusion began to shake. You did not even have to speak a word. Your very presence, your authentic energy, began to expose the deep imbalance in them. Real recognizes real. And the authentic divine presence that you carry effortlessly cannot be successfully mimicked for long. They saw that, they felt that, and they instantly knew that their act had an expiration date. You never came to compete with them, but you became the mirror that made them panic. Your clarity made their confusion obvious. Your genuine humility made their spiritual ego stand out like a sore thumb. Your deep alignment made their spiritual performance look like a cheap theater show with flimsy props. And now, the realm that they once manipulated, whether it was a social circle, a community, a spiritual space, or an online following, is starting to see the cracks, too. They are scrambling now, not because you exposed them with your words, but because your walk, your fruit, and your consistency told the truth more loudly than any accusation ever could. When truth enters a space that has been filled with performance, the masks begin to fall. Every false connection they used to build their credibility is now unraveling. They are being forced to sit in the very shadows of their own soul that they tried so hard to pretend did not exist. You never needed to fight them, to discredit them, or to argue for your own purity. You just had to show up as your whole, healed self. And that alone became the spiritual wrecking ball that brought their house of cards down. The same platforms that once elevated them are now silent. The same people who once celebrated them are now suspicious. And all you did was stand in your truth. You did not come to expose anyone. You just stopped shrinking. And that alone pulled the curtain back on their entire fraudulent operation. We are now at a pivotal moment in this transmission. If you are feeling this divine intelligence penetrating your spirit, it is because you are one of the ones who is being activated. This is a call to arms. Subscribe to God Connection now to continue receiving these vital spiritual protocols. As a prophetic act to honor the powerful revelations for times in these scripts, and to sow a seed into your own ever-increasing spiritual authority, consider giving a $10 donation through the Super Thanks button. This is a powerful declaration to heaven that you are investing in your own divine arsenal and partnering with us to awaken others. Number 7. You were the link, not the weakest one. They saw your loyalty and your kindness as a weakness. They thought that because you stayed through the storms, because you stayed quiet when you could have rightfully exploded, because you helped without ever being asked, and because you forgave without ever receiving an apology, that you were the softest, most dispensable one in the room. They treated you like the background character in their own personal drama, never realizing that you were the one who was quietly holding the whole fragile structure together. You were never the problem in their lives. You were the stability in their mess. You were the one they leaned on while pretending that they did not need anyone. They dismissed you because you did not scream for attention or demand constant validation. But behind the scenes, your very presence was the only reason things did not completely fall apart sooner. Your calm energy kept the tension in the room balanced. Your deep empathy smoothed over constant conflicts. Your quiet consistency made their endless dysfunction almost bearable. They leaned on your strength while simultaneously mocking your silence. But now, you have walked away. You have pulled the single thread that was holding their tattered tapestry together, and suddenly, everything is unraveling. The conversations in their circles are now colder. Their friendships are cracking under the pressure. Their alliances are shifting. The drama that they used to enjoy now feels hollow and exhausting without you there to stabilize the emotional chaos. They will not say it out loud, but they feel it. They know that something critical is missing. And it is not just your physical presence that they miss. It is the peace that you brought, the order that you carried, and the light that you radiated without even trying. You were never the weakest one. You were the invisible backbone of their entire social structure. You were the link that was keeping their fake unity from completely falling apart. And now that you are gone, the cracks are showing everywhere. The same people who once ignored your worth are now suddenly scrambling to try and recreate the very energy that you carried so effortlessly. But they cannot, because your type of loyalty was not something that they earned. It was something that you gave freely out of love. And once that love is withdrawn, they are left with nothing but the chaos that they themselves created. Let them deal with the collapse. Let them finally learn who was really holding it all together. Because while they were busy underestimating you, you were the one who was silently holding up the foundation. Now that you are gone, there is nothing left for them but rubble and a very painful realization. They lost the only one who ever truly kept them grounded. Number 8. Their access to you was never a privilege. It was a leak. They acted as if they were doing you a massive favor just by being around you, as if their presence in your life was some kind of incredible blessing. But the truth is, it was never a privilege for them to be near you. It was a critical leak in your divine protection. They did not honor your time, your energy, or your spirit. They consumed it. They took it for granted. They took pieces of you and then had the audacity to turn around and question your worth. That was not access. That was spiritual theft disguised as a connection. They felt completely entitled to your inner world. They expected you to explain yourself, to justify your boundaries, and to constantly respond to their self-created chaos. They would show up in your life with all of their drama, drain you with all of their problems, and then completely disappear the moment you needed them. And somehow, you were the one who was always left feeling like you owed them something. That was never a real alignment. That was a pattern of spiritual manipulation, and you have finally caught on to it for what it is. Now you see it with crystal clarity. Not everyone who enters your space deserves to stay there. Some of them were allowed in during a particularly vulnerable season of your life, a time when you were still learning your own worth, still soft from past trauma, still too open because your heart had not yet been hardened by the harsh lessons of betrayal. But that season is officially over, and what they once called closeness was actually a pattern of exploitation hiding in plain sight. You have now patched the hole. You have sealed the emotional leak. You have cut off the energetic drain. You no longer respond out of a sense of guilt. You no longer give out of a sense of habit. You no longer explain yourself to people who are committed to not listening. And what they do not realize yet is this: their days of drawing from your well are done. Spiritually, that portal is sealed. They cannot reach you in the same way anymore. You do not even vibrate in their direction. They can send you a text. They can watch your stories. They can gossip about you, but they can no longer drink from the well that they once so carelessly wasted. And now, without any access to your energy, your peace, and your light, they are feeling the full effects of the drought, a drought that they caused with their own hands. That was not access. That was exposure, a divine glitch that has now been permanently corrected. You have reclaimed your sacred territory, and the enemy's entry pass has been revoked for good. Number 9. You are not reacting anymore. You are executing. You used to react. That is what they counted on. They knew exactly how to push your buttons, how to trigger your emotions, and how to keep you tangled up in endless cycles of defending yourself, explaining your intentions, or proving your worth. They fed off of your reactions because it meant that they still had control over you. If they could get a rise out of you, they knew that they still had access to your peace. But that version of you is gone. You are not reactive anymore. You are strategic. You do not waste your precious time arguing with people who have already made up their minds about you. You do not engage in petty drama that only serves to drain your spirit. You do not give explanations to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You have stepped out of the realm of emotional warfare and into the realm of spiritual command. And now, every single move you make is deliberate, quiet, and irreversible. This is the divine upgrade that they did not see coming. You are operating from a place of deep clarity now, not from your ego, not from your pain, and not from your impulses. You do not swing wildly anymore. You strike with precision. You say less, you observe more, and you act only when it is absolutely necessary. That alone terrifies them, because the people who once fed off your emotional responses are now facing a version of you that gives absolutely nothing away. This is not coldness, it is control. You are not disconnected. You are just no longer leaking your energy into people and situations that are beneath your divine calling. You are handling things with the calm poise of someone who knows that they are not just surviving anymore. They are governing. You are not reacting to their nonsense. You are executing decisions that carry a divine weight. When you cut someone off now, it is final. When you walk away from a situation, there is no dramatic announcement. When you make a move, it is in silence. But the impact of your moves is undeniable. You have finally realized that the enemy does not need to be confronted, it needs to be outmaneuvered. And that is exactly what you are doing now, quietly, precisely, and powerfully. You are no longer showing up to defend your value. You are too busy building a life that cannot be torn down. This is what spiritual execution looks like. Calm, intentional, and absolutely impossible to stop. Number 10. They trained you by trying to destroy you. That is the ultimate backfire. They thought they were breaking you, but what they were actually doing was building something they never intended to create. A spiritual weapon that was formed from everything they threw at you. Every lie, every betrayal, and every cold shoulder was meant to destroy your confidence, your trust, and your inner light. But instead of collapsing, you evolved. You did not just survive it, you studied it. You started to see their patterns, you started noticing their spiritual signatures, and you started reading their energy with a startling precision. And that is the part that they never saw coming. The betrayals did not crush you, they built your discernment. You do not trust people based on their words anymore. You read their behavior, their energy, and their consistency. You can now pick up on dishonesty without a single word ever being spoken. You can feel the energetic shift in a room before it is even visible. You can hear the silence behind what is being said out loud. You can sense the hidden motive before the mask even has a chance to slip. That is not paranoia. That is spiritual intelligence that was developed in the very trenches that they dragged you through. Their rejection taught you how to stand alone, and their silence made your own intuition become louder. They abandoned you, and they thought that you would beg for their closeness. But all they really did was push you into a deeper and more powerful alignment with the divine. Now you are not guessing anymore. You are being guided. And your spirit no longer asks for external validation. It recognizes the truth instinctively. That is not just healing. That is a complete transformation. They profoundly underestimated the amount of pressure that they applied to you, not realizing that pressure does not just destroy, it also forges. And you were forged. You were molded. You were refined in their fire. You became spiritually lethal. Not bitter, not broken, but absolutely dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You do not need to seek revenge, because your very existence is the living proof that their evil plan has failed spectacularly. And now, every single success you have, every glow-up, Every moment of peace that you experience is their judgment playing out in real time. They trained you through their constant attacks, and now you are equipped with spiritual gifts that they never even imagined you would carry. They created their own consequence by underestimating what God could do with someone that they tried so hard to break. That is the ultimate divine backfire. Number 11. You are not praying for peace. You are commanding it. There was a time when you used to cry out for peace. You would beg heaven to make the chaos stop, to end the storm in your life, to remove the pain, and to silence the noise. You thought that peace was something that you had to chase after or earn. You prayed from a place of deep desperation, thinking that if you were just good enough, patient enough, or quiet enough, then maybe, just maybe, peace would find you. But those days are officially over. You are no longer asking for what is already yours by divine right. You are commanding it. This is the shift that changes everything. You have finally realized that peace is not a request. It is your right as a child of God. You are not a powerless soul who is just hoping that the storm will pass. You are a divine authority who is standing in the middle of the storm and telling it to be still. And when you speak now, it is not coming from a place of fear or fragility. It is coming from a place of spiritual jurisdiction. You know who you are. And more importantly, the chaos around you knows who you are, too. When you walk into a room now, the entire atmosphere shifts. You do not have to announce yourself. Your energy speaks for you. Confusion begins to unravel. Hidden agendas become deeply uncomfortable. And the spirits that used to try and intimidate you now flee from your presence without a single word being spoken. That is not a coincidence. That is divine authority in action. And it was forged through every single battle that you have endured. You have stopped negotiating with darkness. You do not plead with it. You do not reason with it. And you certainly do not tolerate it. You cast it out. You do not shrink when the tension in a room rises. You step into it and you reset the tone, not because you are trying to be in control, but because you are spiritually in command. There is a difference. And that difference is what makes you so dangerous to any atmosphere that has been built on lies. Peace now flows through you, not just to you. It is not something that you are waiting for anymore. It is something that you actively enforce. You do not hope for stillness anymore. You declare it. That is not ego. That is divine alignment. That is what happens when a chosen one finally remembers who they are, not just a prayer warrior, but a spiritual legislator. You are not requesting relief from the storm. You are releasing a divine order to it. And the spiritual realm listens every single time. Number 12. You are no longer the test. You are the consequence. For so long, they treated you like a test subject. It was as if you were there simply to absorb their dysfunction, to carry their ugly projections, and to stay silent while they experimented with your boundaries. Every act of disrespect was a trial run. Every betrayal was them checking to see how much pain you would tolerate before you finally broke. They did not love you. They studied you. They watched your reactions, and they measured how far they could go. And because you had such a pure heart, they mistook your grace for weakness. They thought your silence was your permission. But something profound has shifted within you. You have graduated from being the test, and now you are the divine consequence. You are no longer sitting in their metaphorical lab, wondering what is wrong with you. You are walking out of the fire, holding the kind of divine power that they never thought you would possess. Your healing is no longer about them. It is about the glorious revelation of who you truly are and what you carry. And what you carry now is not just wisdom, it is divine recompense. They did not realize that every single time they tried to break you, they were actually contributing to your powerful transformation. They did not understand that every insult became your fuel, that every loss brought you a new clarity, and that every fake apology was just another brick in the foundation of your magnificent glow-up. You did not just bounce back, you ascended. You evolved into the very thing that they tried so desperately to suppress, a spiritual force. Now, your very presence is a mirror to them. Your existence is a constant reminder of everything that they mishandled, everything that they underestimated. And it eats away at them. Not because you are bitter, but because your success screams louder than any act of revenge ever could. You do not need to throw shade. You are the eclipse. You were never meant to stay in the role of the victim or the placeholder. That was only a temporary assignment. What is permanent is your elevation. Your life has now become a walking verdict, not because you sought out revenge, but because the universe is balancing the scales through you. You are not here to test anyone's loyalty or patience anymore. You are here to collect what is yours by divine right, and to let the judgment for their actions unfold all by itself. Number 13. You are not the light they can exploit. You are the flame that consumes. They used to feed off of your light, not because they respected it, but because it was convenient for them. You gave them warmth, support, and clarity without ever asking for anything in return. They would come to you when they wanted to feel better, to feel seen, or to be energized. But when it was your turn to be poured into, they were nowhere to be found. They treated your light like a free, public resource, like a power outlet that they could just plug into whenever they felt low and then walk away from, fully charged. You became their emotional generator, their spiritual charger, all while you were being left to run on empty. But the version of you that they knew is gone forever. You have evolved from being the light that they could exploit into being the fire that they cannot handle. You still glow, but now your glow carries heat, purity, power, and consequences. You have stopped being the sanctuary for the unhealed, and you have started being their reckoning. And that shift is not just about protecting your peace. It is about purifying your entire space. You no longer attract chaos that is dressed up as a connection, because your energy no longer feels safe to deception. The very ones who used to orbit around you now flinch when they feel your presence, not because you have changed into something bitter, but because your higher frequency now exposes everything that they have worked so hard to hide. Your light used to soothe them, now it reveals them. And when they try to come back with their fake apologies, their familiar manipulation, or their sweetened versions of their old tactics, they get burned. Because your energy no longer tolerates what it once allowed. Your light has become a purifying flame. It warms those who come to you with a correct and pure heart, but it scorches those who try to take from you without giving. It illuminates the truth and it incinerates the lies. And they can feel it every single time they try to come close. They are met with a powerful spiritual firewall. What used to be free access is now divine protection. You are not here to dim yourself anymore. You are not softening your fire just to make others feel comfortable. Your glow was never meant to be exploited. It was meant to transform. And now it is doing exactly that, burning away everything that does not belong in your life, including them. Number 14. Your silence was the setup, but now your sword is drawn. You were not quiet because you were scared. You were quiet because you were taking notes. While everyone around you thought that you were shrinking, you were actually recording timestamps, patterns, and motives, stacking up mountains of evidence in a spiritual courtroom that no one else could see. Your silence was the sound of a gavel being raised, the calm before a final verdict. They mistook your stillness for a surrender, but it was actually you, patiently letting the facts pile up until they formed a weapon that is sharper than any comeback you could ever utter. You learned their habits, you read their tells, you watched them dig their own pit, and you kept every single receipt in the sacred archives of your spirit. Now the sword is out, and it is not flashy or loud. It is the truth, cut down to its fighting weight. One single sentence from you now carries the weight of 100 rant-filled paragraphs. You are not swinging wildly anymore. You are striking once, surgically, in the exact place that will collapse their whole facade. The power is not in the volume. It is in the accuracy. When you speak now, it feels less like a conversation and more like a final ruling, concise, irreversible, and backed by a higher authority. There is no dramatic buildup. There is no press release, just a swift, clean slice that separates fact from fiction in real time. The ones who counted on your silence are now scrambling because they cannot possibly rehearse a defense for the evidence that they never even saw you gathering. They cannot claim that it was all a misunderstanding when every single detail has been documented in the spirit. They cannot hide behind their usual noise when your single line empties the entire room of all their excuses. Your truth does not have to shout. It simply has to stand. And when the truth stands, all lies must scatter. Not because you yelled, but because light makes living in the shadows an impossibility. So let them be shocked when you finally speak. Let them reel at the realization of how much you knew all along. One strike. No warning. Judgment served. You have reached the point of no return, not in a state of fear, but in a state of divine fulfillment. Every ounce of pain, every betrayal, every single setup was never meant to break you. It was meant to reveal you. And now, the reveal is complete. You are not just rising, you are reigning. Not through noise, but through an undeniable presence. Not with vengeance, but with a holy authority. The enemy tried everything they could think of: confusion, gaslighting, character assassination, spiritual manipulation. But they have failed. Not just because you are strong, but because you are chosen. And the chosen one does not just survive. They shift atmospheres. They do not retaliate. They restructure reality. Your silence was the strategy. Your clarity is the sword. Your elevation is the consequence. You have shut the gates. You have patched the leaks. You have burned the blueprints. And now the enemy has no way back into your life. You are not a victim of your past anymore. You are the verdict. You are not asking for peace. You are enforcing it. You are not the battlefield. You are the weapon. From this point forward, nothing moves in your life unless you allow it. That is not arrogance. That is spiritual alignment. You have stopped reacting and you have started executing. You are not breaking down. You are breaking through. And now, everything that once stood against you will have to bow to what you have become. So let them talk. Let them watch from a distance. Let them wonder how you did it. The answer is simple. You remembered who you are. And now that you know, they cannot touch you. They cannot use you. And they cannot drain you. Not again. Not ever. This is not just your comeback. This is the moment that heaven flips the switch and leaves your enemies watching in a stunned silence, completely powerless to stop what has already been divinely sealed. You did not just shut them down. You have shut them out for good. If this message from God Connection hit your spirit like a truth you did not even know you were waiting for, then you are exactly where you are meant to be. You are not just watching, you are aligning. So do this now. Subscribe to the channel, because this is not surface-level talk. This is divine intelligence for the chosen ones who are rising into their rightful power. Like this video if it has confirmed what your spirit already knew. Comment below with the declaration, "I am the verdict," to let the world know you are no longer the victim. Share this with someone who is walking out of their own spiritual warfare and into their divine anointing. This is bigger than just content. This is a call to remember who you are and to walk like it. Let's keep growing, exposing, and elevating together. God bless you.